So, look at this. We have more things every time we're adding something new to this setup. This light is very bright. So hopefully I am a ghost now. I am a ghost. How appropriate. We just came out of Ghostbusters, Frozen Empire. I'm a ghost. And I'm here to tell you about this movie. Although the good thing is this movie did not kill me. I will say that. We're not going to talk spoilers. So no worries in that regard. Oh boy, I'm going to have a lot of things to say. The one thing we did forget is our mount. So my arm is definitely going to be tired. Might have to bring you guys down here. So, the opening for this movie is very promising. That's something I will say. It's a very promising opening. I really liked it. And I thought, you know what? This might just be a good movie. And then the rest of the movie happened. And it was something. So it starts off, we're kind of just like in a spooky place, kind of setting up the scene of like what the monster is going to be and setting up a little whisper of lore. I will say, I think the creature design in this is quite good. And I think that overall the idea of the lore of this character, who is the villain, and what's going on with that is quite good. I liked all of that. You know, really, I think the problem that I have with this is that then we get into the main characters, right? So we've got Phoebe. She likes science. We've got Trevor. He's cars. He does cars good. And right at the beginning of the movie, what's the first thing that he does in this movie? He fixes the car because they run out of power. He's good at cars, guys. Did you forget from the last movie? If you did, don't worry, because we're here to remind you he's good at cars. We've got Gary. Gary's nice. And I like Paul Rudd. So I will say, Gary just entertains me for the most part. We've got the mom. I don't even remember her name. I just remember her as the mom. Do you remember her name?
Nope.
The mom. That's what we're going with. She's the mom. And she's, like, sassy, is what I would say. I realized this, actually, watching it this time, that I think what they're trying to do with her characters, I think they're trying to make her kind of like a dry, kind of like no-nonsense, Sigourney Weaver type character. Which I think works better in this sequel than it did in Ghostbusters Afterlife, where she was mostly in her cups. Here, she actually gets to be a bit more of a mom, but she's still not a great mom. And so, like, her sassiness and her, like, sardonic tone kind of just comes across sometimes as her just being a bad mom. Which is, I don't think, great for a person that's supposed to be all about family, and that's what this movie's supposed to be about. So those are our characters. We're introducing them all again. They all are kind of doing the same thing. I was hoping that they might have developed more of a personality over the last movie. Nope, they have not. So what's happening is they are now in New York, living in the firehouse, and they are hoping to bust ghosts. They bust some ghosts. There's a lot of stuff, too, that happens where you're like, why would you do that? Isn't there another way we could have, like, solved this problem? Like, there's just roundabout scenes where you're like, this doesn't need to be as long as it is. There's a lot of stuff that's drawn out, and I would say that's the first 2/3 to half of the movie. Is a lot of stuff that's drawn out, roundabout. Sometimes it's entertaining, and sometimes you're just like, okay, I get it, I get it. I get it, Ghostbusters, I get it. There's also a lot of stuff in this where they hold our hands as moviegoers. There are literal moments where we find out about this sort of like ancient group that, you know, battled ghosts in their own way. And they literally say in the movie, Phoebe says, like Ghostbusters. Yes, I'm aware, Phoebe. You don't have to tell me that. I know. Also, especially, you know what I don't like? You know what I don't like, Duck?
What?
When there's exposition that is for no one. Like, in the story. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, is that for me? Is this exposition is for me? Oh, thank you. And then you look at it and you're like, it's stuff I already knew? Like, I feel like, am I supposed to be an idiot watching this movie? Who do you think is watching this movie? We have brains as humans. It's not like this exposition is for anyone in the scene. I don't mind when exposition is in a movie and it's clear that, you're trying to make sure the audience is up to date and everything. But at least it makes sense because there's another moment where Patton Oswalt's character, who is like a librarian that also knows like different languages, he's basically a character that is an exposition character. That's why he exists. But the thing that I liked about him is that there's stuff that he isn't filled in on. So he asks questions and then we get answers, but it makes sense in the context of the scene because Patton Oswalt's character does not have that information. And then he is like, oh, you guys told me about this thing. Oh, I know something about that. Let me share information with you. So it makes sense in terms of the characters need to find something out. And then there are moments when he needs blanks filled so he can give them more information. And it's an actual dialogue that makes sense in terms of the story and what we need.
Like a movie.
Like a movie. However, as I said, the opening of this movie was very promising. And I think a lot of that actually has to do with the creature design. A lot of the sets and atmosphere that we get that are built into this. A lot of the items, the props. Can I just give props to the props team? I don't get to do that enough in movie reviews. Props team. Making these freaking amazing haunted items. And the orb that they have in it. Very cool design. I really liked all of that stuff. Like, the ghosts are actually fun. So if you want a Ghostbusters movie with some fun ghosts, that part is going to be good. We even get an actual ghost character who has a backstory and everything, and it's very exciting. It's unfortunate that not much happens with it. I wanted that to be the whole movie. It reminded me of Casper, live action Casper. So good. So unfortunately we didn't do enough with it. There is also a bit of hinted at romance in this movie with Phoebe. And I got baited, and I'm very sad about it. I'm going to talk more about that in the full review because I don't want to spoil anything. The worst part of the film isn't even, the writing is not great, but the writing has its moments when it's actually really fun, to be fair. There are moments when it's fun, there are moments when it's, what are we doing? But what really drives the film down is the pacing and the way that it's cut. I don't know why it's cut like this. I don't know if it's based off of just the script, and maybe this is just the script. But it feels like at times it's so chaotic. Like we're all over the place with multiple things. There's not as much of a through line in the film, which works against it. And then there are literally moments where things are cut, and you're like, why is this cut this way? Also, there's some stuff that I think continuity forgot about. Do you remember the poll?
Yep.
We're going to talk about that in the full review, but we'll talk about some inconsistencies in that. But there is a moment, I was saying that the moment for me where the moment for me where the pacing is at its worst and the way that it's cut is there is a speech that Gary, Paul Rudd's character, gives to Phoebe after something bad has gone wrong. And he gives this whole speech, but it turns out Phoebe isn't there. This isn't even a spoiler because you're going to find that out right away, which ruins the whole bit that is supposed to be. The bit is, let me tell you what the bit should be. The bit should be Gary gives this whole speech at the door. It's really heartfelt. And then we cut to the fact that Phoebe is not there. And then we all laugh and we all ha ha ha. But instead it's just sad. Also, you have no reason to care about what Gary is saying because we know Phoebe's not there anyway, so it doesn't matter. So there's a lot of stuff in this where I feel like the stakes are just not well handled with the script and with the pacing. Like, you could make it exciting, or you could make it just, okay, what's happening? Why did you say it like this? What was the one that you said that was for the pacing? You said another one that was also really good. Them
deciding to go to the museum, or like the library.
Yeah, the library.
Yeah. And God, it felt like it took forever to get there. It was like, okay, we need to go figure out this thing. All right, where do we go to figure that out? The library. okay. And it took them, like, it felt like 10 million years.
Just to get to the library. And you were like, why is this taking so long? Why aren't we just, like, saying, okay, so what do we need? We need this. Well, let's go to the library. There's so many things, though, in this movie that are that. Like, even that opening, like, after the opening with sort of establishing the lore, the first scene is that. It's more of, oh, what are we going to do with this ghost? We're going to try this. Okay, well, what about this? Okay, well, why don't we do this? And I'm like, why didn't you just do the third thing first? It makes the most sense. And they're like, no, because then we would have less film. And I'm like, yeah, that's fine. It would have been better.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of that. So it's the film kind of getting in its own way and tripping over itself, unfortunately, and kind of ruining the parts of it, I think, that are good, which is unfortunate. I'm going to say the same thing I said after I saw Afterlife, which I want to do a review on that, so stay tuned. Hopefully I'll have one of those for you. I'll go back and watch it again for you, the people. After I finished that movie, I said that the actors, it's unfortunate because I can tell that the actors in the film are good. It's not the actors, there's no substance here. And it's not their fault. They're doing the best with what they have, but they have no character. You know it's bad when your side character has more character than your main characters.
Character who showed up in this movie probably had about 10, maybe 15 minutes screen time. Had way more character development.
Way more depth.
Than these characters we've seen for 2 films now.
Even at the end, there was depth that was padded onto that character. And I don't know if that's acting choice or what, but it was great. Also, there was a surprise appearance in this. I'm just going to say it because I don't think anyone's going to really be super crazy hype about this. But James Acaster is in it, and he's so funny, and yet they still didn't give him a character. It's so unfortunate. As Lars. And he also, his name is Lars. Anyways, that's basically my thoughts. Overall, I gotta give it.
2 out of 5
2 out of 5 for you. I'm between 2 and 3. I'm gonna say 2.5. There's some things that it does that are fun. And there's a lot of people that clearly tried very hard on this.
It's not a terrible movie, which is why I didn't give it a 1, but it's also, I wouldn't recommend it, so that's why it stays at a 2.
I will say if you really like Ghostbusters and you really like the idea of the ghosts and the design, then it's worth it. But if you're hoping for any big character moments, then pass. Yeah. Maybe wait till it comes on streaming. Might not need to see it in the theaters. Sorry, theaters.
Better than Madam Web.
Better than Madam Web and better than Afterlife, which literally made me want to stop watching the movie. So, hey, that's it. I'll see you next time. Stay tuned for the spoiler review. Stay nerdy. Bye!